The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane. Words to know. Despair, to have no hope. Ritual, to do the same thing over and over again. The rooster's ritual was to crow every morning at 6 a.m. Ferocity, being vicious. Surmised, to suppose that something is true. Hobo, a homeless person. Hi, I'm glad you decided to join me again today. Let's read a couple more chapters of The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane. When we last finished reading, poor Edward, he'd been thrown in the garbage and taken out of the house in a garbage sack. Poor Edward. He was very upset because Nellie and Lawrence's daughter, Lolly, had decided for some crazy reason to throw him away. I'm not sure if she was jealous because her parents were really loving on this rabbit, or if she just thought it was crazy that they were talking to and taking care of a toy rabbit. No matter the reason, she decided to get rid of poor Edward. And that is where we start with chapter 11. Edward ended up at the dump. He lay on top of orange peels, coffee grounds, rancid bacon, and rubber tires. The first night he was on top of the garbage heap, and so he was able to look up at the stars and find comfort in their light. In the morning, a short man came climbing through the trash and rubble. He stopped when he was standing on top of the highest pile of garbage. He put his hands under his armpits and flapped his elbows. Then the man crowed loudly and he shouted, "Who am I? I'm Ernest. Ernest who is king of the world. How can I be king of the world? 'Cause I am king of the garbages, and garbages is what the world is made of. Ha 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 ha! Therefore I am Ernest, who is king of the world." And then he crowed again. Edward started to think that Ernest was right. The world was made of garbage, especially after the second day at the dump when a load of trash was deposited directly on top of him. He just laid there, buried alive. He could not see the sky. He could not see the stars. He could see nothing. What kept Edward going, what gave him hope, was thinking of how he was going to find Lolly and get his revenge. He would pick her up by the ears. He would bury her under a mountain of trash. But after almost 40 days and nights had passed, the weight and the smell of the garbage above and below him clouded Edward's thoughts. And soon he gave up thinking about revenge, and he gave in to despair. It was worse, much worse than being buried at sea. It was worse because Edward was a different rabbit now. He couldn't say how he was different. He just knew that he was different. He remembered again Pellegrina's story about the princess who had loved nobody. The witch turned her into a warthog because she had loved nobody. He understood that now. He could hear Pellegrina saying, "Oh, you disappoint me." "Why?" he asked her. "Why do I disappoint you?" But now he knew the answer to that question. It was because he had not loved Abilene enough. And now she was gone from him, and he would never be able to make it right. And Nellie and Lawrence were gone too, and he missed them terribly. He wanted to go and be with them. The rabbit wondered if that was love. Day after day passed, and Edward was aware of time passing only because every morning he could hear Ernest performing his dawn ritual, cackling and crowing about being king of the world. On his 180th day at the dump, salvation arrived for Edward in a most unusual way. The garbage around him started to shift. The rabbit could hear sniffing and panting from a dog. Then came the frenzied sound of digging. The garbage shifted again, and then suddenly, like a miracle, the beautiful buttery of light in the late afternoon hit Edward's face. Chapter 12. Edward did not have much time to enjoy the light because the dog suddenly appeared right above him, dark and shaggy, blocking his view. Edward was pulled out of the garbage by his ears and then dropped and then picked up again, and this time around the middle. And then he was shaken back and forth with a great deal of ferocity. The little dog growled deep in his throat and then dropped Edward again and then looked at him right in the eyes. Edward stared back at him. "Hey, you! Get out of here, you dog!" It was Ernest, king of the garbages, and therefore king of the world. The dog grabbed Edward by the pink dress and took off running. "That's mine! That's mine! All garbages is mine!" Edward shouted. "Come back here!" But the little dog did not stop. The sun was shining and Edward felt exhilarated. Who, having known him before, would have thought that he could be so happy right now? He was crusted over with garbage, wearing a dress, held in the slobbery mouth of a dog, and being chased by a crazy man, but he was so happy. The dog ran and ran until they reached the railroad tracks. They crossed over the tracks, and there, underneath a scraggly tree, in a circle of bushes, Edward was dropped in front of a large pair of feet, and the dog began to bark. Edward looked up and saw that the feet were attached to an enormous man with a long, dark beard.
"Who's this, Lucy?"
said the man. He bent and picked up Edward, and he held him firmly around the middle.
"Lucy,"
said the man.
"I know how much you enjoy rabbit pie."
Lucy barked.
Yes, I know. Rabbit pie is a true delight, one of the pleasures of our existence.
Lucy let out a hopeful yip.
And what we have here, what you have so graciously delivered to me, is definitely a rabbit, but even the best chef in the whole world couldn't make this into a rabbit pie.
Lucy growled.
"This rabbit is made out of China, girl."
The man held Edward close to him. They looked at each other straight in the eyes.
"You're made of China, aren't you, Malone?"
He gave Edward a playful little shake.
Well, you are some child's toy, am I right, And you have been separated somehow from that child who loved you? Yes.
Edward felt again the sharp pain in his chest. He thought of Abilene. He could see the path leading up to the house on Egypt Street. He saw the dusk coming down and Abilene running to him. Yes, Abilene had loved him.
"So, Malone,"
said the man. He cleared his throat.
"You are lost, that is my guess. Lucy and I are lost too."
At the sound of her name, Lucy let out another yip yip.
"Perhaps,"
said the man,
"you would like to be lost with us. I have found it is better to be lost with others than alone. My name is Bull. Lucy, as you may have surmised, is my dog. Would you care to join us?"
Bull waited for a moment. He was staring at Edward. And then, with his hands still firmly around Edward's waist, the man reached one enormous finger up and touched Edward's head from behind. He pushed it so it looked as if Edward was nodding his head in agreement.
"Look, Lucy,"
he was said.
He said yes. Malone has agreed to travel with us. Isn't this swell?
Lucy started to dance around Bull's feet, wagging her tail and barking. And so it was that Edward took to the road with a hobo and his dog. And that is the end of chapter 12. Oh my, what a crazy change in the story. So, and Edward is really changing names a lot too. This is his third name so far. I hope he doesn't start to get confused as to who he is. So here is what I'm wondering from you. How has Edward changed so far in this story? When the dog has him in his mouth and she is running with Edward, Edward says, "Who would have ever thought, if you had known me before, that I could be happy when I'm crusted in garbage and wearing a dress and being carried by a dog?" but he was happy. How has Edward changed from the beginning of the book until now, the middle of the book? Let me know. I can't wait to hear what you think. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And I can't wait to read you more tomorrow. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.